Vlog on a blog. Tomorrow's news today. Get to the truth. Listen, learn, live. Visit us at yadayah.com.
Marvelous job on the new introduction. I understand it's going to go through some more refinements. Not at my encouragement. I love it just the way it is. I particularly like Mariah's outro of the intro of her timing. It's a very William Shatner-ish as he did the introduction to Star Trek, Where Boldly Go. And his delivery of it is such that nobody else has been able to even come close to as one as profound. And I think her listen, learn, live falls under that category. I should not even have tried to duplicate it because it was really very well done.
I'm sorry. You guys go ahead and just give me about 2 minutes. Someone just showed up at my house. I'll be back.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll start here with Miss Americana. Miss Americana posted this image in black and white of zombies. I would assume those are zombies. Are they zombies or are they quasi Egyptians and mummies?
Zombie mummies.
They're zombie mummies, okay, but they're only partially clad zombie mummies. It's a very poor job at mummification if that's what it is supposed to be. Maybe she's depicting the reality of those who believe in the Christian resurrection of their dead God on a stick, and that when they finally realize that they were played for a fool, that their bodily resurrection is going to look like, oh my God. But this is a play off the monkey see, monkey do. The three monkeys.
See no evil.
Yeah, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And no matter what it is, I just want to let people know where we are. We are 7 years to the end of the world as you know it. There will be a world that will go forward on this planet for 1,000 years thereafter, and then eternity to follow. But the world of human zombies and of the myth of bodily resurrection, of gods who were resurrected, of blending Egyptian paganism into Christian monotheism, those days are over. There will not be a single Christian alive, not on earth, not in heaven, 7 years from now. Come Taruw'ah, which is the great day of Yahowah. Every Christian will be vanquished from the earth, but so will every religious Jew and every Muslim, every Hindu, and every Marxist. Everyone who is overtly political, religious, conspiratorial, anti-Semitic, or has in any way led people away from Yahowah will be expunged from the planet. There will be very, very few people left. There will be 2 harvests of souls who will no longer be whatever these things are that are halfway between alive and dead. And those will be the antithesis of these because they will have listened to Yahowah. They will have been observant of what Yahowah has shared with us, and they will have spoken boldly to share with others what God has conveyed. So they will be those that are part of the Shabu and Taruw'ah gatherings will be the opposite of these individuals. And also they will be the opposite in another way. They will be the colors of the rainbow as a sign of the covenant. They will not be in black and white, and they will not be 2-dimensional. They will be 7-dimensional individuals, which is an exceedingly huge upgrade. They will not have physical bodies. They will be encapsulated in energy and light. There will be a mortal remnant. They also will not be in black and white. They will be there because they're the opposite of these. They will have begun to listen. They will have begun to become observant. And they will be among those who may hold their hand over their mouth for a while, recognizing that it is important to listen to Yahowah and to see what he is conveying before it is to speak their mind. But that will be the mortal remnant of Yisrael. Maybe 2,000 people up on the upside, that will be around the Temple Mount on Taruw'ah in 2033, which is year 6000 Yah. That is what we're headed towards. Between now and then, Donald Trump, as Satan incarnate, is going to destroy the world as we know it. There will be a nuclear war. There will be world wars. There will be all manner of calamities. There'll be a complete breakdown of economic systems. America will be toast, and Israel is going to get pummeled. So it's going to be exceedingly rough out there, and there'll be very few individuals that are willing to stand up to him. And we're going to witness the time of Israel's troubles play out before our eyes. We entered it 2 months ago, and we'll continue it for the next 7 years. The prophets say it's the worst time in the history of not only of Israel, but also of the world. 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die over the next 7 years. So it is a very rough period of time, according to the prophets. And it's ultimately the miscalculations of Benjamin Netanyahu and the betrayal of Donald Trump that are going to cause that, because the onslaught in Israel, and it's described by 3 different prophets, all graphically, so that it is not a nuclear bomb. There is no reason to try to keep Iran from having a nuclear bomb pursuant to Israel or to any place else, because that is not where they're going to use one. They are described as sending mujahideen, Islamic terrorists, into Israel by the millions, which they're now in a position to do, and they've been motivated to do. And they are going to crawl through windows and doors and individually rape and plunder Yisraelites who will have believed falsely that their IDF could protect them. They will have believed falsely that their favorite politician and political party could protect them. They will have believed falsely that their rabbis had some conduit to God, and the rabbis are despised by God. So that is what is on tap. I have written a series of books pertaining to it. The last Etz Sarah covers much of this material. You could write 100 volumes about what's going to happen and not convey all of it in terms of all the proper insights, but I've done a pretty decent job of laying out the future as it will be played out over the next 7 years in the book called Etz Sarah, Time of Troubles. It's free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It is free at yahowah.com. This one is 825 pages. And you don't even have to read. It will talk to you. You open that book, go to yahowah.com, click on books, go down the page to the 9th volume of Yahowah, the Yahowah series. It's called Time of Trouble. Click on it, open to the first chapter, and push the play button. It will talk to you, and talk to you in a number of different voices, and it will turn the page for you, so you don't even have to turn the page. It will highlight the text that it's reading. It's pretty extraordinary. It's I think by far the best audiobook ever conceived. And every book on the site will do that for you. And the charge for doing it is absolutely nothing. You don't even have to sign up as a member, and signing up as a member is also free to be able to listen to those books. In fact, the only thing you have to sign up as a member to do is participate in the community chat and to use the Ask Yada feature, because it was abused by people who shouldn't have been there. That's it. Learn the truth. You can open your ears. You can open your eyes, but probably want to keep your mouth shut until you know a lot more than you know now. And oh, by the way, Miss Americana, there will be no Americana left. The nation that Yahowah is the most vociferous at denouncing in the last days is America. So Israel does not know this, because Israel thinks that America is their buddy or savior, and that Donald Trump is a messianic figure, even though he has already betrayed them. But nevertheless, it's America that Isaiah describes using some 70 different attributes of America. And the prophets describe Donald Trump using scores of attributes that only he fulfills throughout time as the living incarnation of Satan. So that's where you're going. And it's going to arrive in Technicolor, not black and white. Oh, my. So their question is, do you believe?
Believe.
Do you believe first of all, if you start with belief, you're already lost. What you believe is meaningless, literally. If you took the beliefs of every person who's ever lived and you piled all the value of every belief of every person who's ever lived, you would not have navel length. I mean, literally, beliefs are an admission that you do not know. And the moment you know, you do not believe. So belief is simply the residue of laziness, of ignorance, of being irrational. Belief is the substance of religion, because if you knew, you wouldn't be religious. So, do you believe that the Bible is 100% true and without error? Well, that's the test of being a Protestant Christian. The Catholic know that they're the ones who edited the text to serve their interest back at the time of Eusebius, who was the propagandist for Constantine. And so they know the truth, that Jerome blended multiple Old Latin texts together to create the Latin Vulgate, and he did so because there were so many errant and conflicting versions that there was no chance to ever claim any authority from those texts when they all contradicted one another of the New Testament. So they know what Jerome did and what they did with all conflicting texts, and that it was an amalgamation of old Latin texts. And they know what Eusebius did to create the glue that holds the New Testament together. All of it was written by Eusebius in the 4th century. So they know the truth. It's just a really big money-making scheme for them. The truth is, and this is hard for Christians to fathom, and I don't expect a single Christian to be able to process this rationally. But when you look at the 69 pre-Constantine manuscripts of the Christian New Testament, they're called codices. We have 69 of them. All 69 were found in the same place. They were found in ceramic containers and walls in Alexandria, where the Christian scribatorium were placed. So prior to the end, kind of the middle of the 2nd century, there is no evidence of any kind for Christianity. The oldest codices pertaining to Christianity and its New Testament dates to the mid-2nd century, 100 years after the fact. And of these 69 witnesses, of which I have read them all, and I have provided access to all of them, and I have included them in a series of books called Twistianity, because it's important that you know the original source material. This is it. It's called Yahowah, Twistianity. There's 5 volumes. Each is about 750 pages in length. And what I do is I juxtapose. That means I compare the statements that Paul and others made to what God actually said, particularly when they claim to quote God, and they always misquote him. So I put God's words and their words side by side. They never match. They're always different. And so it is rationally impossible for the Christian New Testament to be true when it claims its authority from the God they constantly misquote and misappropriate. But when you compare those 69 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century manuscripts up to the early 4th century with Eusebius and Constantine to the Christian New Testament as it is presented now, there are 184,000 words in the Christian New Testament. There are 300,000 variances. So you have almost twice as many variances as you have words. So to say, do you believe that the Bible is 100% true and without error? What you're saying is you're completely ignorant of the reality. Now, what I'm saying here is not my opinion, and it's not even subject to debate. The earliest 69 manuscripts of the Christian New Testament disagree vociferously with one another, and there are so many variances that they outnumber the words almost 2 to 1. Those are the facts, and the facts are actually irrefutable. The first comprehensive presentation of the codified Roman version of the Christian New Testament were both written by Eusebius on order from Constantine, who was a worshiper of Mithras, which was the Roman god of the sun on behalf of the Roman legions, and he never left his worship of Mithras. So the whole under this sign conquer, when he was looking up at the sun, well, the sun was his god right to the bitter end. But he had no interest in Christianity other than as a means to control people. And he told Eusebius to create a text that he could use to do that. And Eusebius, we have two witnesses to what Eusebius created. They're called Sadecanus and Vaticanus. And they are pathetic. There are more overwritings and erasures than there are words in those texts. They date to the late 4th century, and they include copious things that are not in the original text, including the single most important line in it, which is, "You are the Christ, and upon this rock I'll build my church." That admission not only is laughable. Eusebius was a real numbskull as a writer. What he wrote is just absolutely laughable. But it doesn't appear prior to his copy edits, his inclusions. So if you actually study the history of the text of the Christian New Testament, you will realize that not only isn't it perfectly true and without error, it is the antithesis of it. Mm-hmm. Now, I would go one step further. I'll go two steps further. The Torah, prophets, and Psalms in Hebrew were extraordinarily well preserved by the Masoretes, who I have a bone to pick with because of their diacritical markings, which they came up with that system in the 11th century. They called it the Shiva system. The Shiva is based on the Hebrew verb show, it means to deceive. And they did enormous harm to the testimony of God with their Shiva diacritical markings. Nevertheless, if you remove their diacritical markings and you just go with the letters that were part of the original Torah and prophets and Psalms, you'd find that their retention of the text as it was written is good within one word in every 14. So if you take a book like the Great Isaiah Scroll and you compare it to the Masoretic text, so you have the entire thing, you can make a mathematical model, and it's different in one word in 14. Now that's a lot different than being errant in two words for every one. One in every 14 is a whole lot different than two for every one. But beyond that, most of the changes are fairly minor. There are some that are significant where you know that the Masoretes were being deliberately deceitful. But for the most part, one word in 14 is not terrible once you remove the diacritical markings. Now, beyond that, we have something that is an enormous gift pursuant to the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. That's called the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls predate the Masoretes by 13 to 14 centuries. There are no diacritical markings to lead anybody astray with them. And they date anywhere all the way back to 3 to early 400 BCE. And because of them, and because of the text they cover, we can rectify the issue of being errant by one word in 14 because of the swaths of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's in the range of one word in every 40 or 50. So you're down to 98% fidelity and 2% potential scribal error. And considering the means of transmission, of written transmission, that's better than any other book in human history by an enormous amount. There's nothing anywhere close to that. The book, however, never claims to be perfect. This notion of perfect is a religious concept. God himself isn't perfect. Men are not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And God doesn't even want perfect, because perfect would defeat the entire purpose of us engaging in a relationship together. Perfect is from is a interpretation of the Hebrew word tamim, which is actually the plural of tamam, and tamam means to complete, to fulfill, to finish. It does not mean in any way, shape, or form perfect. And so you just have to start with imperfect is something that God is actually wants to see, because without imperfect, we can't grow. We can't learn. We can't validate our worth. We can't achieve anything of value if we are perfect. There's no place to go, nothing to do. So God is not interested in perfect. He wants us to be consistent, to do as the outro of the intro said, listen, learn, and live, and to engage based upon what we come to know and understand. Error isn't something that God is trying to eliminate either, because it is only by making mistakes and growing from them, from occasionally being mistaken and correcting that mistake, that we prove that we are capable of learning, that we are capable of growing, that we're trustworthy. And so an occasional error is highly advantageous for us to demonstrate that we're constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly improving. And if you look at everyone that was associated with God, they all made mistakes. And most of them, but not all of them, but some of them, overcame them, proved their merit. Others didn't, and they're the dust of history. So this whole discussion is exceedingly important, and it's essential to religion, because they have to believe that their text is 100% perfect and without error, and yet the Christian New Testament is internally contradictory. It contradicts what God actually says. It's inconsistent with history. It's just a jumbled mess of lies and completely irrational. It breaks every one of the rational fallacies, and it's not even consistent with itself. But they need you to believe the other way, because otherwise you wouldn't believe the religion. So they promote a lie. And now I have shared with you the truth. Everything I've shared, you can validate. You can go to yada.com, open the series of Twistianity. It's all laid out there for you. And the facts are all searchable, and they are irrefutable. So I've given you irrefutable proof, if you're a Christian, that you have been lied to. What are you going to do with it? Are you capable of dealing with evidence and reason, or are you just going to be the typical Christian idiot or religious idiot that says, I don't care, I'm going to believe what I believe anyway? I mean, your choice.
I'll have to ask my pastor.
That's my pastor. Yeah, I can tell you. I grew up a Christian, and I came up with 20 unanswerable questions that I asked my pastors. And because I became quite successful early in life, I was given access to the pastors of pastors, and I brought these questions to them, and I can tell you every single one of them to the person said, what you've discovered is absolutely true. Therefore, what we're saying is untrue. Nothing in the Christian New Testament is accurate, but we make a living doing this. If we were to say what you're saying, there would be nobody sitting in the pews of our churches. There'd be no collection plate. There would be no letters in the mail filled with checks. And if you say what you're saying, they're going to label you a kook. That's what they know. You know, the Roman Catholic Church has long acknowledged there has been great profit in this myth of Jesus. Jesus never existed. It's a figment of Paul's imagination. And I prove it. I absolutely killed Jesus, and he was not resurrected. He is deader than dead. And not bragging, it was fairly easy to do. In fact, it wasn't fairly easy to do. It was so easy to do that in the 5 volumes of Twistianity, I did it 1,000 times over. Jesus never existed. That's the truth.
Yeah, they got themselves a one-way ticket to Sheol, didn't they? I mean, to know the truth and then to continue to cover, because it is profitable for me. Yeah,
it's profitable for me.
It's the
Makes
absolute.
It gives me a Olstein. It gives me a pretty church with clean carpets.
Yeah.
And don't you? And I'm gonna talk to you like you're middle midgets, but I'm gonna have things that roll off the tongue that make me sound really caring and loving and sweet. While I'm not only lying to you, I'm fleecing you, and I'm depriving you of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
That's scum, and every one of those guys are scum.
Yeah. But at least I make them feel good while I'm doing it, right? I mean, what is the fucking rationale?
Look, the rationale for making them feel good is that if I make them feel good, they'll come back to my church. They'll fill the collection plates of my church, and I'll have fancy homes and fancy airplanes, and that's how I make my living. I'm a carnival barker. I'm a con man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's all a lie, and they know it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
At that level, they all know the truth. I've talked to enough of them over the years, proving that Jesus is a lie, and every single one of them. Yeah, okay, so it is.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an answer for anything you brought up. Okay, we can play just a tidbit of this. It's U.S. military is praying. They're doing almost a Pentecostal thing. They're waving their arms and having a come to Jesus service. But when my response to this is, you want to take the military who are armed and equipped to kill and destroy. That is their purpose. They are trained, they are paid, they are equipped to and indoctrinated to destroy and kill. That is their purpose. They don't build. They don't free, ever. Their purpose is to destroy and kill. And you want to elicit your God as their general. So you have a killer God. You have a God whose purpose is to use you to kill and destroy and deprive people of freedom, which is what they do. It's reprehensible.
Oh,
It just makes you want to vomit. An army praising a mythical God. God is on our side. No, he isn't. The nation that God goes the furthest to disparage in these days is America.
Mm-hmm.
And so you aren't on God's side. God is against you. And every one of you who go off there and die on the orders of Satan, Donald Trump, are not only going to have squandered your life for nothing, you're going to add yourself to the roadkill of the worst man who ever lived. I don't care how many times you scream Jesus. He ain't going to hear you because I killed him. And it was easy. And I would do it again. And he was never going to be resurrected after I killed him.
The Third Reich was very religious too, wasn't it? I mean, Der Fuhrer was the top of the religious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. When you read Mein Kampf, one of the things that you find in Mein Kampf is a very religious book. Hitler is extremely attuned to the fact that people have to have religion. That you cannot control people, you cannot lead people without religion. That there is no such thing as a purely political mantra that causes people to fight to the death for you. Genghis Khan is the same thing. The texts of Genghis Khan were more religious than they were political. You look at Muhammad. He mixed in religion with his criminal enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler spoke of what he called the Volksreligion. Now, most people have not read Mein Kampf. Not only read it, but I've compared Mein Kampf to the Quran, and I have 4 chapters of the 5-volume series called Goddamn Religion, where I juxtapose Hitler's Mein Kampf to Allah's Quran. Same book, same message. And what Hitler created was a religion of personality. He calls it the Volksreligion, which means the people's religion. Mm-hmm. And he was the Führer, the leader of that religion. such that the purpose was to worship him. And if you look at Donald Trump creating the Fourth Reich, and with his brown shirts, who are ICE, and him turning the military into a cult of personality as well, and his MAGA faithful, who are Twistians, which you see is exactly the same thing. He is wrapped in messianic kind of a garb. He is presented as a godlike figure in all that he does, and yet he is a demon. He is Satan. So we're witnessing this all over again. America is becoming the Fourth Reich, and this time we'll have about as long a livelihood from the rise to the fall of the Fourth Reich. It will. It's not going to survive very long, and it's going to take a lot of people worldwide down with it. The death toll this time there will not be anywhere near 50 million. It'll be north of 5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Stand with our troops. Will you pray for our troops? Hell no. First of all, God is opposed to prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't want anybody to pray to him. In fact, prayer to God is a really stupid idea. I know it's absolutely incorporated into Christianity. Paul said, pray without ceasing, but Paul was demon possessed by his own admission, and he lied about everything, including Jesus, who he invented. And by the way, he never spoke for because they never cited him once. So you have this myth that God wants you to pray, first of all, and that your topic of prayer ought to be the killers of society, those who have been armed to take lives. They're all wearing guns. Their job, and helmets, their job is to go kill others. That is what they're trained to do. You can give it any pretty picture you want to paint for it, but the bottom line is they are trained, equipped, and deployed to kill. And Secretary of War Hogsbreath will affirm this in virtually every statement. We're going to be a lethal force. We're there to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Trump says it all the time. I'm going to obliterate the entire country. I'm going to kill them all. God doesn't want you praying to him. And the reason is really simple. You got nothing to say. Really, you got nothing to say that he wants to hear. You don't know him. You don't know who. We don't know his name. You don't know what he asked. You don't know what he is offering. You don't know squat. And you worship gods that men have made in their own image, like Jesus and Allah. So you're worshiping false gods, bowing to false gods. And you think the real God wants to hear from you? No, he says that those of you who are worshiping false gods that get down and pray to him are so disgusting to him, it's as if they had feces on their faces. That's the truth. What God wants is for us to listen to him. Remember that opening picture? We had this, and we had this, and we had this. Well, he wants you to open these and shut this. Because guess what? You can't listen and learn if you're yabbering. And you've got nothing to say because you're an idiot. You do not know what you need to know to have an intelligent conversation with God. Once you know what you need to know to have an intelligent conversation with God, go ahead. But by that time, you're so fascinated by learning what God had to say that you're going to spend your time learning more about what God had to say and then helping those who are interested in him be better equipped to lead productive and thriving lives. And until you reach that point, which there isn't a religious person on earth that is at that point, you should just shut up. And that would include every pastor, every priest, every imam, every rabbi on earth. Just shut up. Now, if you want to be smart, start listening. God has two words. They're shama and shamar. One is to listen. The other is to observe. Listen to and observe his testimony, and you will grow as a result. Yabber to him, and he will kick you to the curb. Every Christian prayer that's ever been made, God has either ignored or become angry as a result of. Every single one, ever. No exceptions. Now, you want to take it one step further, and you now are praying for the killers of the very country that God has stated unequivocally is betraying and destroying Israel. I pray for the killers of Israel. That's going to win a lot of friends, isn't it? You say, well, they're not killing Israel. They're fighting on behalf and alongside Israel. No, they're not. What they did in Iran has made Israel indefensible. And that's why when Trump signed the Memorandum of Understanding, he checkmated Israel, completely betrayed Israel, isolated Israel. Israel is completely isolated now and hated by the entire world and has no one to stand alongside. So no. You're going to move your bases into Israel because you lost them all in the Middle East. But that's because Israel's your vassal. So no, there's nothing more despicable than this. This myth that your military provides your freedom is the great lie that has caused despot after despot to be able to prevail and control populations. God is vehemently opposed to human governance and to militaries, and he said so emphatically.
Yeah, praying to the killers for purely economic gain. There's no defense in this whatsoever.
None.
There's no protecting the home. Nothing. It is
Nothing.
100%.
Well, you look at this
economic
particular
gain.
war. I mean, both wars. The war that the United States started by using Ukraine as a proxy to go kill Russians because they wanted to steal Russian assets. There is nothing in there that is a benefit to the United States. No American freedom involved here at all. There's no liberty involved. This is a purely economic war that has already left 2 million people dead because of a bunch of politicians who were greedy and immoral. And then you look at Iran. Iran was no threat to the United States. They weren't about to invade the United States. They weren't going to nuke the United States. They didn't have a bomb. They're going to have one now, but they didn't have a bomb. And the prophets are very clear. They're not going to deploy a bomb in Israel. No. You want to talk about bombs? Well, using Ukraine as a proxy to go kill Russians when they have the most nuclear weapons, that's how you're going to get bombed. So the U.S. is already playing the come on and bomb me game, but that game's not being played in Iran. They're increasing the likelihood that Iran's going to continue to beat the U.S. military. Now, the whole thing is a lie promoted for the military-industrial complex and the bankers and for the politicians for purposes of control. If you're a wartime president, the population won't rise up against you. That's the nature of war. You're being played, and you're a fool. Well, rumors are that Iran is terrified. Oh my God! Why? We know that because Trump said so, and they're begging for a deal. We know that because Trump said so. And by the way, he said so like 400 times. And has it ever materialized? Never once. Because the two agreements that this fart over here on the left conceded to were the 12-point plan, which he said, we've agreed to its terms. It was total and complete surrender by the United States. And the 14-point memorandum of understanding, which was even a more bitter surrender by the United States. And then he went and violated the terms of both because he's a lying piece of shit. So the Iranians aren't terrified. They want America to invade. They are playing Trump to invade, egging him on. And by every sane assessment of this war, the United States has gotten its clock cleaned. It's just devastating for the United States. They've lost the petrodollar. They've lost their bases in the Middle East. They've lost their prestige. They've lost their deterrence. They've bankrupted the world. They have caused food shortages. They have lost control of the Strait of Hormuz. They have created Iran as the hegemon for the region. They have betrayed Israel. Every stupid thing that a piece of shit could do has been done here, and he constantly lies about the Iranians begging for a ceasefire. The Iranians have never asked for a ceasefire. The people that beg for a ceasefire is Trump, because he's desperate to get the Strait of Hormuz open. So it's Trump who needs the ceasefire to rearm. Never the Iranians, ever, once. And the Iranians have never begged for a deal. They're always willing to, well, they were always willing to listen. But when Trump was negotiating with them a year ago, in the middle of those negotiations, he'd bombed them. Then he was negotiating with them again, this time with Omar as the go-between, and he bombed them again. Even when he got the concession that he wanted, which was they'll release the uranium-235 enriched to 60% fissile purity. And he got the concession he wanted, and he bombed them anyway. And so he created this mess. And so the Iranians at this point, when they signed the memorandum of understanding, they got his signature, they held it up. This is his signature. And we read the agreement. Trump violated the agreement that same day by threatening Iran. And then the next day, he violated it again by telling ships to ignore the terms of that agreement and to go through the Strait of Hormuz through their system, as opposed to the system that the memorandum of agreement of understanding prescribed, which was through the Iranian control.
That we agreed to.
Agreed to. He signed the agreement. So the Iranians will never trust Donald Trump again, ever. Well, they never trusted Donald Trump, period, because Donald Trump's not trustworthy. But there is no mythology that says they're going to be trusted. And now the warmongers, there are these Tristan magus that are destroying the world by supporting Satan incarnate. Say it's time to finish the job. That's their new slogan. Finish what job? What are you going to do? You bombed every site that you could think of that had any military component to it and accomplished nothing, but got your own bases destroyed and squandered your resources in doing so. And then you started bombing civilian targets because you had no more military targets to hit, and you've committed all manner of war crimes. And still, you're making a bad situation worse. How are you going to finish the job? You going to invade? That's what they want you to do. They want you to invade. America invades, and that piece of shit is known to be Satan incarnate. It's be the killing fields for Americans. There's 90 million people that live there. America going into Iran will be 1,000 times more difficult than going into Iraq. And between Iraq and Afghanistan, between deaths in combat and suicides afterwards with people knowing that what they did was so heinous, you lost tens of thousands of Americans. This won't be in the tens of thousands. It'll be in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And you'll gain nothing. What are you going to do? You're going to try to occupy a country the size of Western Europe? You're going to have your Marines scale mountains into and be gunned down in the process? You're going to have them catch the drones? Swat down the drones that are sent to kill them because you don't have a defense for that? You're going to let them be the victims of missile attacks that your Patriot missile system now is 4% accurate and being able to target and 80% depleted? What are you going to do? Finish the job. Okay. You want to go finish the job? Send Barron. You go. Pick up, strap on your boots. I know you got bone spurs, but strap on your boots, pick up a gun. You go. Take Barron with you. Take Don Jr. with you. Take Eric with you. Take the whole clan with you. In fact, you can take your Jared Kushner with you. Take Obama. Take them all. You go.
Yeah.
General Bone Spurs.
The finish the job, that is either hundreds, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands of American soldiers dead or 90 million Iranians dead. That is to finish the job. That is the only two things that come out of finish the job. They either nuke it or they throw a bunch of soldiers into a meat grinder.
You cannot, since it is impossible for America to invade and occupy Iran. Absolutely, militarily, logistically impossible. America cannot finish the job by invading Iran. And America can't finish the job by nuking Iran, because if America nukes Iran, then it will have started World War III and America will be nuked in return. So there is no, this mantra of the MAGA Twistians on behalf of finish the job has no credence whatsoever. I mean, there's only two moves left. Troops, and you cannot, it is impossible for America to invade and occupy Iran. Absolutely flat out impossible. And in even attempting to do it, there would be enormous loss of men and material. And they could never be resupplied. They could never stay in place. It would be just catastrophic. That's why the Iranians are hoping America does it. They're trying to bait Trump into doing it. Or you nuke it. Now,
and nuking it is just dumb, because the whole point of wanting the Strait of Hormuz open is so you can get the stuff in Iran out of Iran, the helium that you need, the fertilizer, the oil,
you need, the natural gas, the oil, the aluminum that the world needs. And if you nuked Iran, no one's going. The whole place is going to glow. You've ended it all. So there's just nothing but smoke and ash and carnage for the world. So you can't nuke Iran without destroying the world and yourself. And you can't invade Iran and survive it. So what is finish the job, stupid? I mean, really, what is finish the job, stupid? And every time America bombs Iran, like last time Trump says we're going to go for these specific targets, and Iran texted back the same day, same hour, and here are our targets. If you hit these targets, we will take out the same facilities in Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. So we will destroy Saudi Arabia if you do this to us. That's bottom line. So make your choice, big guy, but that's the consequence of that choice. There is no solution for this war. It cannot be resolved. Your choice when you commit yourself to something stupid like this is you can only retreat or you surrender. That's it. America that needs to pull out, and the world will never be the same if America pulls out. Iran controls the strait for the next 7 years, and America's prestige and bases in the Middle East are gone. So you either retreat under those circumstances, and the petrodollar is over, or you sign a surrender document and you try to save some face, but that's going to cost you hundreds of billions of dollars. But what's hundreds of billions of dollars in a nation that squanders trillions a year? But he is such a doofus. That man is so evil and so stupid. And I'm not talking about the one on the right. I'm talking about the one on the left. Oh, Thomas E. Dreyer. There is no such thing as Israel. Well, the best documented history of ancient times is in a series of books, some 20 authors over a 1,000-year period, and it's called the Torah and Prophets, and includes the Psalms. There is no more detailed or more accurate depiction of any nation or any people in the history of humanity than that book. And in that book, there are copious details that constantly prove that is accurate. And there are, literally thousands upon thousands of archaeological details that affirm that everything that it discussed happened, where it said it happened, when it said it happened, how it said it happened. And then on top of that, that same series of books written over 1,000 years about this place and these people known as Israel is filled with prophecy, that all of which happened as it was foretold. So to say there's no Israel is to say I'm a really stupid piece of shit. That's what it says. I am ignorant.
But he doubles down with the P word.
I'm irrational. I am absolutely stupid. So Israel has a better and longer claim to the land of Yisrael than any other people or nation ever. There's no one in Europe that has that history. You could say, well, the Egyptians do, but you really can't, because it's Muslims now that control it, and the Muslim Arabs are the ones who came in to usurp power from the Egyptians. And so they have conquered the place, turned it into a colony, so the former Egyptians have no say. The same thing happened to Persia. India may have a somewhat similar claim, but they don't have any documentation to validate it, as is the case with the Torah and prophets pursuant to Israel. So there is no nation on earth that has the documented history that Israel has. Now, they are then claiming that there are Palestinian people, but Thomas dimwit, there are no Palestinians. So you're claiming that Israel doesn't exist when it has the most, not only archaeological proof, but also the most copious textual proof of any nation and people on earth. And there is not a shred of evidence there were ever a Palestinian people. Not now, not ever. There were Philistines long ago, but the Philistines are only known to us through that same book that you claim doesn't validate Israel. So you can't claim that the Philistines are a people because you just destroyed the one source that acknowledges that they existed. So that's pretty stupid, Thomas Dwyer. That makes you a real fundamentalist idiot. But beyond that, the Philistines were all killed. They were so obnoxious they couldn't even be enslaved. They're all dead. And they've been dead for thousands of years. Palestinian is nothing but an ethnic slur. It's a marketing myth to create dum-dums like this so that you could say stupid stuff. And prior to 1960, outside of British anti-Semitism, where they, because they hated Jews and always have hated Jews in England, that they clung to Hadrian's ethnic slur. And they spoke of a Palestine because of Hadrian's ethnic slur in 133, as he was torturing Jews and the Yahud of Yehudah to death. Other than that, there was nothing. And no one ever considered themselves a Palestinian. I mean, it was just an ethnic slur by Hadrian that didn't take any effect. No one paid any attention to it. And if it wasn't for the snobs in the UK, it would have been long forgotten as nothing but an ethnic slur. But in the 1960s, when it became obvious that the Muslims could not defeat the Israelites militarily, it was the Russian KGB and the Muslim Brotherhood that met in Cairo that came up with this lie that they would rename the Muslims and the Muslim Arabs throughout Israel. They would name them Palestinians. And the refugees that they crisis was purely by the Muslim armies. They asked in 1948 for the Muslims in Israel to leave so they could wipe out and exterminate the Jews more readily. So it was under this PLO that was conceived by the USSR and their KGB in conjunction with the Muslim Brotherhood, this whole thing was conceived. And the reason was that the Russians at that time were the arms supplier to both Syria and to Egypt, and had a bigger influence over some of the other surrounding countries, so that, and Israel was kind of in this mix where they weren't a client of Russia, they weren't a client at the time of the United States either, but that Israel was a threat where the Russians could have their weapons tested against Israel, and so they created this for that purpose, and that's the history. And if you don't know that, then shame on you. You shouldn't post.
Well, and he's fond of the T word too. American terrorists, Russian terrorists, Hungarian terrorists. Okay, that who commits 99.9% of
world's
terrorist
terrorist acts? Muslims.
Yeah.
Muslims have committed 99% of the world's terrorist acts since 1400 years, when Muhammad himself was a terrorist. But he's ignorant of that too.
Yeah,
it's just universal ignorance.
Tommy.
What's happening, and it's universal among Marxists now and Muslims and MAGA Twistians. It's universal ignorance, and there's no fixing stupid. All right, so
it's a fun word, but Shekinah. It's
Shekinah. They want the Shekinah to return. Shekinah is the maternal presence of God in Judaism. Every religion demeans women. And so every religion has to have something that they can offer as a plum to women to allow men to abuse them. And in Judaism, it's the Shekinah. She is the queen of the Shabbat. And the Shekinah is a rabbinical term that does not appear in the Torah and prophets, that they made up to have a feminine presence of their God that could be someone that the women could relate to, because the rabbis were going to create their Hashem in their image. But there is no Shekinah, does not exist, and it was never associated with the temple ever. In fact, it's not a Shekinah's name who's on the column of the temple. It's Boaz. Boaz is not the Shekinah. He is a man, and he is a really, really frustrated, angry man. I believe the resurrection of Christ. That had to be put in brackets. I believe is the most important thing in human history. So we actually said is what I believe is the most important thing in human history. They had to insert the resurrection of Christ. And this is Mel. I am the world's biggest anti-Semite, Gibson. So how in the world you could be the world's biggest anti-Semite and you're believing that the most important action in human history was the resurrection of a Jew? No. Sorry, Mel, but you're an anti-Semite and you've been played for a fool, or you're either that or you're part of those who are fooling. But here's the reality. There has never been anyone who was resurrected. The resurrection is an absurd concept. And it's counterproductive. If you die, your physical body begins to decay. If your physical body is decaying even before you die, but it decays. It's replacing cells at a huge rate. And every cell of your body has been part of another body at one time or another. And so the only way you could be bodily resurrected is to steal the body parts of everybody else that wants to be resurrected before you or after you. The notion is insane. It is a notion that was promoted by the Egyptian pharaohs. And last time I checked, every one of the bodies is still inside of the mummification. They were 0 success rate.
Complete fail.
And yet And yet this is the myth of Christianity. Now, there is not only no proof that a Jesus ever existed, not a shred of evidence, none. I mean, literally none that Jesus ever existed, much less was resurrected. If a man survived crucifixion, the writing about that would have been immediate and would have been extraordinary, and yet it didn't happen, which is why there's no record of it. And it's stupid, it's pagan. The fact is that God is not a man. God has never been a man. If you see a God that is presented as a man, which would be true with the Roman religion, the Greek religion, even the Egyptian religion, the Babylonian religion, all of their gods have human aspects to them because the people who created the gods in their image. So when you see a religion that makes God out to be a man, that's the size of their God. Their God is no greater than the men that conceived him. God's not a man. The Christian depiction of Jesus as a God is a depiction of the man who created that lie. Foremost of them is Paul, who Mel Gibson would have liked because he was also an anti-Semite. He was also a sexual pervert.
And a drunk.
He was a drunk. He was all manner of stupid. But God is not a man. And let me tell you something there, pal. For your God to have been resurrected, men would have had to kill him. It's not much of a God. Men can kill him. So no. And what you don't know is that there was somebody who was crucified. You don't know the day that was crucified. It happened to be Passover. It was 33 CE. And he actually was the Messiah. He actually was the firstborn of Yah. He was not a God. He was Dowd, David. And so you've stolen what he did on Passover because you don't understand what Passover represents. And then you had your fake God nap on matzah, which is the more important thing. It is the most important part of the human story, is what was done on matzah, where guilt was carried into Sheol to deposit, never to be seen again. But you're too stupid to know that. No, it wasn't the fulfillment of Passover that was the most important. It did open the door to life. It was what happened on matzah where guilt was removed and you know nothing of it. And then you claim that there was a Sunday morning resurrection when simply Bokhurim. And the Bokor, the firstborn of Yah, fulfilled Bokhurim on the first day of the week, 3 days in succession, filling Chag Matzah as he specifically said he would do. And by you lying about it, by you stealing what the actual Son of God did, you have earned hell for yourself. And you are not going to be resurrected from that. That's the story. Whether you choose to believe it or not, I don't really give a damn. You can cast your soul into hell, and I might even hold the door open for you. I really don't care. Nor does God, by the way. God's not trying to save you. He is active, though, in making sure that you're properly condemned, but he is absolutely not interested in saving you. Nor am I. I just want people to know that you're a fraud. Mel.
He's another one that has made it very profitable through his movies and stuff.
Yes.
This Jesus Christ character. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A raging anti-Semite that is promoting a mythical Jew.
Mm-hmm.
That's Twistianity for you. By the way, he says that in human history. So I guess his God is really a human, just as I had said, although he is a fake human. This is a really sad situation here. This is a new, it's not new, but its popularity is rising. Tisha, if you can go back up a little bit, I need to be able to read that. It's Tisha B'Av. It's the 9th day of the month of Ab. This year it was July 22nd and 23rd of 2026. But on the Hebrew calendar, it's amazing that they keep a portion of the Hebrew calendar, and they know that it was the month of Av, but they don't know that there's no V in Hebrew, so you really can't have a month of Av. There is a month of Abib, but there is no month that is Av. On top of that, God has no mandate for celebrating or mourning the 9th day of the mythical month of Ab. None. He has 7 days each year that he's asked for your attention. That is not one of the 7. And of the 7, all rabbinic influenced Jews either completely screw up or completely ignore all 7. They misrepresent Passover as the day of liberation from Egypt, and it was no such thing. They make Passover a 7-day holiday, and it's no such thing. It's 1 day. They completely ignore Matzah, which is the 7-day occurrence, which is the more important day. They completely ignore Bokorim. They have no clue what Shabuah represents and are far more fascinated by counting the Omar. They celebrate somewhere in between all of these things a Purim, which is based on the fabricated book of Esther. They reset their year, so they have 2 new years with the Babylonian New Year, and they change Taruw'ah, the great day of Yahowah, to Rosh Hashanah, the head of the Babylonian year, and they make it the start of their high holy days. And even holy is in Hebrew means diseased and corrupt. And then they invert the purpose of reconciliations. They make it a day of affliction and atonement, as opposed to a day of reconciliation. They don't know what's going to happen, or what did happen, or what will happen on Kippurim, that's the day that the Messiah, Son of God, returning King, arrives with Yahowah, and his name is Dowd. And they have turned Sukkah into a hut and 4 varieties, including a wrinkled sour fruit. What in the hell? I mean, they don't have a single one of those events right. Not one. They don't know the 5 terms and conditions of the covenant. They don't know Yahweh's name. They don't know who the returning king is. They're completely ignorant of everything Yahweh said in the Torah, including the fact that Yahweh is overtly anti-religious, and the entire Torah reads like a textbook on everything you could possibly do wrong to annoy God. And they did them all. And it didn't change as you turn to the writings and then to the prophets. They have been on a 4,000-year bender.
Yeah.
And my job in less than 40 years is to resolve a 4,000-year-old bender. So, and they're here doing everything wrong. Of course, this is vivid because he is the most obnoxious of all of the people who pretends that he is promoting Israel when he is destroying Israel with every post. The fact of the matter is, they're also praying. God does not ask you to pray. You can see them; they'll bob their heads. You can play this drivel. If God didn't want those 2 looking to bow down, look at them doing the rabbinical push the butt out and the head down thing. It's just repulsive. Look at them; they're wearing their little Greek kippas, round hats that they picked up from the Greeks, which is why the Pope wears them too. Look how many are dressed in black and white, the religious garb of the Haredi. And they're bobbing up and down, and they're praying to stones that an anti-Semite positioned. And of course, guess what? There's not any of in their midst. Women. These are dudes being obnoxious before God. I don't think there's anything he could do more obnoxious. The fact is, if God didn't want the Babylonians to destroy the first temple, they wouldn't have. If God didn't want the Romans to destroy the second temple, they wouldn't have. He wanted them destroyed. He wanted them destroyed because it was symbolic of the destruction and the morality of his people. They were destroyed on both occasions because Israel wouldn't listen to the prophets. They wouldn't listen to God. And they created the conditions where the destruction of those temples was inevitable. And it was Israeli civil wars and Israel's fighting among other Israelis and against God that led to the destruction. The one time that somebody said, maybe we should listen to God. I found an old copy of the Torah. It was buried in someplace in the temple, all dusty. I read the damn thing and found out we shouldn't be religious. I got rid of all the religious artifacts. We brought the priests back up to speed on what they're supposed to do. We asked God for a 2-week extension because we couldn't get it done in time. There's 185,000 of the best armed forces in the world camped outside of our walls. And God says, well, maybe you should celebrate Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. And they did. They returned to God's original plan. And God spared them. One Malach came down and poof, 185,000 of the best armed forces in the world disappeared. Maybe they ought to try that because that would work. And but before that and after that, they were obnoxious. I mean, literally obnoxious. They have erased Yahweh's name, removed him from their lives, and overshadowed his Torah with their Talmud. God has no interest in them whatsoever. God does not bless Jerusalem. He cannot even recognize the place. And there will be no eternal capital of Israel. There will be a remnant of Israel, but that is not the nation of Israel. And that remnant will be in the 1,500 to 2,000 range, down from 15 million Jews today. We're looking at 1,500, maybe 2,000 at the most. All the rest will be gone. One in tens of thousands. So that's your reality. Read the prophets. They're clear. I have, you should have.
We like our paint, right?
This looks like a whorehouse. I have been through all of the palaces, Peterhof, for example, the Hermitage. We lived through all of the Versailles, and then also those palaces that were built by the America's oligarchs during the Baron days, and they all are a much classier version of this. This is trailer trash version of gilding here. But all of them, you walk into a room that's gilded, although much more sophisticated. These are plaques you can buy at Home Depot for $10 a piece, and they look like they're spray painted and then glued on the wall. This is the trailer trash version of gilding. And the actual version of gilding, when it's done aesthetically, is still creepy. I have never walked into one of these gilded palaces where you haven't gone, oh, God, I couldn't imagine. I mean, first of all, I want out of this place. Get me out into the gardens. I just want out of it. You just get the creeps. It's cold. It's a decadent use of wealth. There's nothing that's attractive about it. There's nothing inviting about it. It's just hideous. And he's turned the Oval Office of the White House and even the wall that leads to it into something that is no better than a whorehouse.
It's just like his trailer on the top of Trump Towers.
Yeah, it's like his golden toilet at Trump Tower. Everything about the man is a fake. It's all fraud. It's Satan gilded as if he were somebody special. Satan in a suit is the equivalent of that gilding of those placards. Oval Office can't be saved, and it won't be saved. 7 years from now, it'll be gone. The whole thing will be bulldozed. Washington Monument, U.S. Capitol, Lincoln Memorial. I might keep Jefferson around for a while because I like Tom, not as a temple, but Tom was the closest to real of any of them. He knew that the Christian New Testament was a fraud. He wrote about Paul being a fraud. He was opposed to a standing military. He was opposed to a central bank. He was opposed to religion. Thomas Jefferson, given access to information we know, I'm pretty certain would be covenant. He was a bright fellow, very thoughtful. So, for old time's sake, I might keep Tom's hangout around just to say it was possible to figure out that Christianity was a fraud. This man did it. But the rest of them, no. Obliterate it all. Turn it back into a swamp. More productive. That was one of the few things was actually more productive as a swamp.
Mm-hmm.
So here is this gargoyles. The gargoyles actually are a Christian thing. They put demons on the side of their churches, and it's a really weird Christian thing. So they're claiming that Sodom and Gomorrah were toasted because they were the first gay and lesbian friendly city. And yet there is no indication in the depictions of Sodom that they were actually sodomites.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to say that, well, the fact that they wanted to know the two fellows that walked in there, you have a real problem with that, because one was 920 years old at the time and was the most famous man on the planet at the time. He was Noach. The other was Shem, who would become the most famous man who ever lived. He's Dowd in another life. Those were the two people who walked into Sodom. What they found in Sodom was that everybody was unreasonable. They were not a single decent person in the place. And the term that was used to describe what the townspeople wanted to do was yada. They wanted to know these two men. They didn't want, and they were very concerned about being judged by them, because those two guys were really judgy. That is for damn sure. But Sodom and the 5 cities of the plain were destroyed, and the evidence is overwhelming that God did it. They found Sodom, they found the other cities of the plain. They were destroyed exactly when God said they were destroyed. They were destroyed how God said they were destroyed. And so the intelligent thing is to find out, what is it that caused them to be destroyed? Who was it that destroyed them? Why did he destroy them? And if you don't know the answer to those stories, then you ought not be promoting this stupidity of gays burning in hell. If God was really fixated on homosexuality as an issue, do you think that one of the 10 statements that he etched in stone would have mentioned it?
Would have been in there. Would have
It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't, though, was it?
No.
And there's only 2 references to it, and neither reference use a term that can be translated homosexuality. The word that is used it appears very seldom, and the word is derived from the concept of oppressing, brutally, sexually, degrading a army that you have defeated, such that it was quite common in the day for the victorious side to sodomize the losing side.
Mm-hmm.
Men away from women too long, and I guess another man looks appealing to them somehow. It's pretty sickening to me, but that's nonetheless what they did. And what God says is, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And God's instructions, he has a lot of instructions on sexuality. And he never says that women can't hang around with other women and be sexual with them. There was physical contact between God's favorite person, Dowd, and his favorite person, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
God had no problem with that. God had no problem with Dowd having well north of 10 concubines. He had no problem with Dowd having well north of 7 wives. He had no problem with anybody having sexual relations apart from marriage. He doesn't even have a word for marriage or a marriage vow. God's not interested in the same things that the religious are all freaked out about. What he says is no sex with animals, no sex with dead people, no sex with your mother, with your father, with your brother, with your sister, or with your children. No incest, no pedophilia, and no rape. You want to have sex, you need consent. That's what God had to say. And yet, the priests of Christianity are pedophiles. The pastors of Christianity are screwing other their parishioners' wives. And you look at Judaism, they try to keep it secret, but the fact is that there is a huge crisis on rabbis doing children.
Wow.
So it is pervasive, and there are things that God hates, and those are the things he hates. He doesn't hate homosexuals, and he certainly doesn't hate lesbians. It's not on God's radar screen at all. I'm certain that God's preference would be that the model that he created for Adam, that a man come to know a woman and that they work together to conceive children and raise them, is God's overwhelming preference. But sexuality is so far apart from the core part of his message, and is something that God actually celebrates. The most beautiful story in the Torah and prophets and writings is the love affair of Ruth and Boaz, and it's very sensual and it's very graphic. And the worst is the rape scene that concludes the preceding book, that of Judges, and it's despicable. It's also graphic, but it's despicable. And so it's all about your attitude as you get together between men and women, and the way you treat people. And that's the message. It isn't about homosexuality, but that's the typical nature of a religious freak.
Yeah, I don't even think that it's about sexuality at all, because it's 100% about power. Because
control.
Slavery was still something that is not banned in Torah, and that says nothing about other than let them go. And it's still about consent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In fact, in Yahweh's instructions, he was the only one that came up with a plan that slaves could be freed. That's the Yowbel plan, and it was unequivocal. Every 50 years, every slave, even most indentured service, everyone had to be freed. All debts had to be forgiven. The land returned, and God even has rules on in the intervening period. He knows that every civilization was based on slavery. So slavery was going to be part of the human psyche, because that's what humans did to one another. But God said, if you're going to do that, here are the rules. And you got to treat these people well and appropriately. And you can't cheat them, and you can't beat them, and you can't abuse them. And that includes if you end up choosing to have sex with somebody that is under your control in that manner, then you got to treat them like they're your wife. You got to treat them fairly. You've got to cut them in on everything that's part of your life.
Yeah.
It's God's view on this is really quite clear, and it does not fit the Christian perception. No surprise. Or the rabbinic perception of women is as bad as the Christian was. Oh, by the way, that's an atomic bomb or missile.
That, no.
Yeah, no, it was not. It was not that. It was fire and brimstone, and they found it. By the way, it's all over the place in those 5 cities. And they were all burned at that time. And the very fact that they found the 5 cities, and the fact that they were all burned at this time, they're all located where God said they were located, and the brimstone is prevalent in them. You ought to say, well, to get that right, you might want to listen to what else is in that book, because that book got it right. to know the story of the flood, where God said it's going to happen at this time in this region by a deep upwelling of seawater. And the evidence for that is absolutely everywhere in that region, including the Black Sea, going from fresh to salt water, and the water level rising 500 feet at that very moment, and the sediment giving all the traces of an upwelling of deep seawater. It's undeniable that it happened at that time, at that place, in that way. So maybe you ought to give the spirit who inspired all of it the opportunity to express his case, particularly when that spirit is the antithesis of the God of Christianity and Islam and of Judaism.
Yeah. I don't think the state park or whatever outside of Masada to the south there, they call it Lot's wife. I don't think that's really Lot's wife.
No.
Okay.
So. It doesn't say that she's turned to salt. It actually says she has a covering, or it is adorned in salt. Which would be the blowback of that city, because it was located where the Jordan River dies into the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea was incredibly saline, and so it's the aftermath of what occurred at that point, because she stayed there and wanted to go back. She longed for what was her old life. People love,
make it.
They love their society. They no matter how ungodly it might be. Oh yes, here we are again,
ramping up, aren't we?
Yes. Okay, there, Hog's Breath. Yep, this is Secretary of War Pete's Hog's Breath. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. Well, I'm here to tell you, they were sacrificed by you, Hog's Breath. Their death is on your soul. You started this war. You caused them to die. They died for nothing. There's nothing heroic about this. You can wrap it in a flag-draped coffin. You can come off the airplane. You can cover it before POTUS and yourself. It doesn't change the fact they believed you, and you betrayed them, and they're dead. And you're going to pay the price, because your soul is forever stained by their blood. And I intend to hold you accountable. Hog's Breath.
Do you think they're going to be out there having these little photo ops and stuff when there's 10 coffins coming back a day, 25 coffins coming back a day, 60 coffins coming back a day? At one point, do they shut off the cameras? At what point is too much to, you know what I'm saying? Because this is a photo op.
At what point can't you
proud.
retrieve? Yeah, at what point can't you retrieve the bodies, and you just have to bury them there, as America did on island hopping in the Pacific, as America did on above Omaha and Utah Beach. When do you just say it's not practical to retrieve the bodies? We can't even bring them home. Let's just, you might not even be able to bury them there. There may not even be the opportunity to bury them there, because those trying to bury those bodies would be killed as well and have to be buried. It could well be what happened to Jews in the Ukraine, where they just dug trenches in the ground, shot them and pushed them in, and poured lime over them, and then covered the trench. Yeah, this could be what is going to happen.
Because they're proud of this shit right here. This is sick. They're proud of this right here. I mean, the fact that
they are.
That
this is a sense of this is a sense of pride to those who are grotesquely demonic and immoral. And if you're a twist in MAGA, go to hell. Yeah, this is interesting. No matter who you vote for, the bombs keep falling. If you look at King George I, he is the one who began this war, where he decided that he would engage American troops and cost American lives to defend Saudi Arabia. Saddam Hussein, who had been an ally of the United States, who was armed by the United States to go kill Iranians, had done something that would have been exceedingly beneficial. He not only invaded but took over Kuwait, and he was on his way to Saudi Arabia. And had he been successful, we would have had the best dictator in the Islamic world in charge of that area. It would have made for a much, much safer world. But George Bush was into financing bin Laden, or financing from bin Laden. He had made his fortune investing Saudi Arabian funds. His grandfather and his benefactor, George Herbert Walker and George Prescott Bush, had both funded Hitler's brown shirts. That's how they got their money. They were given access to Auschwitz as to mine the coal that was gasified to run the German war machine. That's how they made their money. He was a genuine scum, and that whole Desert Storm war that he created was to sacrifice American lives for his personal pocketbook to protect Saudi Arabians. That's pretty disgusting. You got Bill Clinton and his war in Kosovo. There was no justification whatsoever, none. And yet he got NATO to join America to go kill a bunch of people, just dropped a bunch of bombs with absolutely no justification. Why? Because he was being hounded by the Monica Lewinsky thing, and he needed a distraction. So he started bombing people for that distraction. One of the worst of all time is a man that I knew quite well, spent a fair amount of time with him. A man who told me when he was elected, if he were elected president, he would be a wartime president, that he would start a war because he knew that was the best way to ensure that he would become a second-term president, because people rally around their president. And my life changed fundamentally when I had to oppose him, which I did through Prophet of Doom and Tea with Terrorists, because he did something incredibly stupid. He sacrificed tens of thousands of Americans to make a bad situation worse in Afghanistan and then in Iraq. There was no justification whatsoever for entering Afghanistan. There were no Afghanis involved in 9/11. And it was a tragic mistake to enter Iraq because there was absolutely no presence of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Saddam Hussein hated fundamentalist Muslims, didn't trust them. And so they didn't exist. Every bit of that was a lie. And he sacrificed tens of thousands of Americans, both to death in theater, most by American malfeasance, and then the suicides that followed. Barack Hussein Obama was the murderer by drone. Tens of thousands of people worldwide without trial, just based on him saying, yep, go kill him, were murdered by drones. He is the man where, when he was president, I learned that the drones are going to be the end of humanity as we know it. It's killing by remote control. During his first term, Trump was mostly just an idiot. He did give Ukraine the tools to stop Russian tanks, which grossly exacerbated the killing fields in Ukraine, such that a few thousand dead Ukrainians became 2,000 dead Ukrainians over time. But he was mostly a nincompoop, other than his horrible handling of the Ukraine proxy war and his exacerbation of the problem. You get to comatose Joe Biden. He is the one who made certain that America would continue and would escalate this proxy war against Russia. 2 million people are dead because of his lies. He lied about everything pursuant to that proxy war. And as a result, we are on the precipice of World War III and a nuclear war because of the devastating lies of that man. And now you have Trump 47, who is literally the personification of Satan. He is demon-possessed by Satan himself. He will be the most deadly man, the most diabolical man in the history of the world by the time it's all done 7 years from now. And he is trying to obliterate Iran. and it couldn't be anything that could be worse for the world than what he is attempting to do, while he tries to also control Venezuela, Cuba, Greenland, Panama. It just goes on and on and on.
Anyone I want.
This is the most despicable man who has ever lived. But you look through that cadre of characters, the last 6 of them, and they're all despicable. They're all killers. They're all murderers. It's murderers row. Congratulations, America. You should be so proud.
Yeah. That's kind of funny.
Mary, you whore. I can't believe they bought it.
Come on.
Okay. It is funny. It is funny. The reality is there was no Mary. The term Miriam among a Hebrew would be would relate to Miriam, who was the sister of Moshe, of Moses. And she was struck with leprosy. She was cast out of the community. God used her as the example of divorce for claiming to speak for God falsely. And her name means to be embittered, to be rebellious. And so no thoughtful Jew is ever going to use the name Mary. There are people named Mary today, but they're married after the myth of a Mary, mother of Jesus, who is named, who was created to create the replicate Estar and Astarte, the mother of God, the queen of heaven, and the Madonna and child of the Babylonian, Greek, and Egyptian religions. And so this is just one of the many lies of Christianity, with a incredibly bogus name and an amazingly stupid story.
Well, Naomi uses it as her worst curse. Call me Mara. I mean, it's like...
Yeah, when Naomi is coming back into Bethlehem, she curses God by saying, I want you to call me by this name. And it's a derivation of this. That's the waters of Meribah, where the Jews were so belligerent in their animosity towards Yahowah and towards Moshe as well. So it is to be Mary is to be a whore. That is for true. But the rest of it is just a sick joke. Yeah, here's David. They don't know his name either. There's no V in Hebrew, so he could not have been David. The name is written Deleth. It is pronounced as Dowd. It means beloved. He didn't defeat Goliath. There was no war with Goliath. One stone well cast brought down Goliath. And it speaks of what happens if you are the anointed of Yah, which you can do. And he spoke of Goliath as the you filthy, uncircumcised Philistine that is speaking against Yahowah, which everyone has lost the essence of that message. And he was the person who brought the Philistines down so that they were no longer a significant opposing terrorist to Israel. He did not lose to Bathsheba. Most certainly didn't lose to Bathsheba because he claimed Bathsheba. So it's the opposite of losing to Bathsheba. He claimed Bathsheba. He claimed Bathsheba because he became lethargic. He became intoxicated. He was drinking too much. He was sleeping during the day and lounging around as a voyeur at night. He had sent his troops off to fight a battle that they should not have been fighting. That was not against not a defensive fight. He was doing everything wrong, and he was lost. And he did not know how to treat women, how to value women, or even the value of life. And so he made a tremendous mistake with Bathsheba. But adding Bathsheba to his cadre of sex toys was not God's issue. God even said, if you needed more sex toys, I would have given you more sex toys. You wanted more women? No problem. 20 are not enough for you? You need 30, you need 40? You got that kind of sexual desire? No problem. Give whatever number you wanted. You know, you need to treat them decently, but that's that'd be fine. You certainly have the wherewithal to take care of them. Just treat them fairly, appropriately. The problem with Bathsheba is that Dowd turned to her instead of Yahowah. He turned away from Yahowah to turn to her. And then he rebuked Yahowah by doing something heinous. He had her husband killed. And he tried to wine and dine her husband to create a myth that it was her, because he got Bathsheba pregnant on their first date, if you want to call it a date. But so he tried to get her husband implicit in what happened, and he wouldn't play the game. He wouldn't become a hedonistic drunkard like the king. But that wasn't the biggest problem. And even then, when he had his military leader orchestrate his death, that wasn't the biggest problem. That was bad. And then he came up with a whole ruse to hide from the fact that he was the one who had done this. And that was really bad, but that wasn't the biggest issue. And then Yah had Nathan approach him and say, let me tell you a story. And the story was really sad about a man that only had just one thing in his life that he cared for. And there was another man that had everything that you could possibly want and countless numbers of the same thing, and he didn't care for any of them. And then he went and stole the one thing that man cared about, took it from him. And Dowd heard this story and said, well, that man ought to be killed. He ought to pay, he ought to have retribution. And Nathan said, Yahowah wants you to know you are that man.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't listen. Rather than that, he doubled down and became more antagonistic towards Yahowah. That's what the Mizmor that he wrote, I think it's the 51st in Rebellion. And so it's that he lost to Yahowah, and he lost Yahowah. And it wasn't until Yahowah came up with a plan through the 31st Mashal, the last word picture, and the 89th Mizmor that got that relationship healed so that humanity had a chance. So it's the most important story of all. So the real giant wasn't his desires. God was absolutely willing to accommodate every sexual desire he had. I had no issue in how much money he was accumulating, how much power he was accumulating, how many homes he was accumulating, how many women he desired. God was not at all opposed to and was willing and went on the record as saying, if you wanted more of any of this stuff, I'd have been happy to give it to you. It wasn't his desires. It was his losing sight of who he was relative to Yahowah. He killed his relationship with Yahowah.
Yeah.
And very few people know that. And if you don't know that, you can't understand God's story or the remedy that God deployed to resolve that story.
Yeah. So I never heard how the fish was.
I did make an announcement.
After
the fish that it was spectacular. My good friend Tibby is the one who caught the red snapper at 500 feet, which means that they were good to eat. And he brought these 4 snapper back. He cleaned them, prepared them, deboned them, and scaled them, and then chopped them up so that they were the protein and ceviche. And then he studied ceviche recipes and found the best possible one, and mixed in cilantro, which is really effective in it. Jalapenos with the seeds removed, so you get the flavor without the bite. Bell peppers, lots of red onion, and cherry tomatoes, and some cucumber. And he cooked all of that for 45 minutes in lime and lemon juice, which cooks the fish and takes the bite away from all of the other things. And it makes for an absolute delicacy. So you don't ever cook the fish over heat. You cook it with lemon and lime. And I will tell you, I think it was spectacular.
Awesome.
What do you think there, Rich?
I would eat my vegetables.
Yeah, Rich doesn't like vegetables. He's a steak and potatoes man from Kansas.
Yeah.
And Rich had a triple helping. So it's pretty obvious that it was delicious. I had a second helping as well. it was absolutely magnificent for those of us who appreciate ceviche. We live on an island. I do sushi regularly, and ceviche happened to be my favorite meal. So I'm easy to please in this regard. But that was probably the best that I've had. Certainly the best I've had in the last 20 years.
That's saying something for a guy that gets around like you do. So
so that was really.
I mean, you're not eating at dive ceviche places, and you know what I'm saying. You've been around the world. It's like
nobody.
Pretty...
It's like there are old pilots and bold pilots, but they're not old bold pilots. There are people that eat at sushi dives, and there are people who eat sushi at places where they know the chef and where they get their fish. But there are no people who eat sushi and dives who are around to tell the story about it.
Yes.
You need to know what you're doing in this regard. We're actually pretty expert at sushi and how it is properly prepared and served. Leigh and I have spent a lot of time in our spare time learning about sushi. We do have a favorite place. It's right on the beach. It's called Beauregard's on the beach in the community that's where our home is. And we will occasionally cater a meal with our friends, and we'll bring in a sushi chef to do that. So we happen to be a fan of it. One of our very favorite things to do, and I know that's not everybody's favorite, but
oh, I love seafood. I mean, growing up, Missouri. Grew up on a cattle ranch, so I mean, 2-inch steaks, any cut you wanted, we was nothing to me. For me, the big thing was going someplace and getting seafood. That was always the treat because that was.
Well, I like both. Yeah, I like both. I like to eat, there's probably 7 or 8 cuts of steak that I really love and have many different ways to prepare it. My favorite meat happens to be lamb. So I'm really pretty lucky in the Yahowah thing. But of seafood, I love salmon. We can't get much halibut here, but I did dearly love halibut previously. But we have wahoo, which is fairly close to it, and wahoo is lovely. We get lots of fresh bluefin tuna here too, that's caught in our local waters, and bluefin tuna ceviche and just raw is really marvelous. We eat pretty well here. Life is good on this island. It's pretty primitive, right? Yeah, the roads aren't very good, and the utility is really terrible, and you have to use satellite internet, and the government is corrupt, and if you're sick, you're going to die because there is no hospital. So, you're moving to a place where if you get sick, you're going to die because there's no functional medicine.
Or here. I'm driving.
Or you're driving, yeah. Rich. He's the crazed driver to the hospital. I walked in. The first time I've ever walked into that hospital. When I had the kidney stone, I walked in the hospital. I turned to Leigh and I said, I would rather die than stay here. This was just smacked of death to me and human corruption. And we walked right on out. So there's issues, but there's you've seen the views that he has even from this office, which is the library office. You've seen all the views from the ocean, the sky office, which are gorgeous. So we sit above the sea, perfect weather every day. It's really it's inexpensive because we are so primitive that most people won't put up with that kind of primitive lifestyle where you really have to do for yourself. We cultivate all of our own drinking water. All of our water comes from the sky, and we collect it. You have your own septic systems to take care of the outbound as well. We generate our power. Well, I've got 100 panels on the roof and 6 very large Tesla batteries and a full-blown solar system. So we generate our own power as well. And we grow a lot of the things that we eat here too. Leah has quite the garden. Now that she's distracted making songs and intros and outros, she doesn't garden quite as much as she used to, but she still does. And we eat that as well. So life here is good. I like it. And if you're gonna do this job, it's nice to be in a fairly isolated place because you don't have many friends and you have lots of foes.
I can agree with that. Nothing wrong with a little isolation. Nothing wrong with a lot of isolation, actually. So
No, there isn't. Yeah, you would. You'd like. I think you'd actually like it here. It's quite different than being isolated in Missouri, but it's better weather than Missouri.
Oh, sure.
The ocean. You don't have much of an ocean in Missouri. And I don't know if you're an ocean guy or not, but I happen to love the sea. God picked a guy from the sea.
Absolutely.
I love the sea. Love boats, love the sea. Love beaches. And I'm a warm weather fan. I've spent a lot of time in the mountains and high altitude and snow and that sort of thing. And the right time and the right environment, it's pretty, but I like.
For a little while, right.
Yes. I happen to like waking up and deciding, am I going to put flaps on today or go barefoot? And what color are my drip dry shorts going to be today? And,
Right.
You wear a short sleeve shirt. So you've got two items of clothing, drip dry shorts and a short sleeve shirt. And that is really all you need for attire. And so I happen to like that kind of an environment. Anyway, enjoyed the show with you. We had lots of things to talk about, and we'll be doing a Luminaries show this afternoon. Continue to proceed through what leads to Moab and then into the book of Ruth. And I cannot wait to walk everybody through what I learned in Yeshaya 10 and what we can deduce from Yeshaya 11, because I think Yeshaya 10 and 11 comprise the most important prophecy in all of the prophets as to who this individual is. And I just wrote a new introduction to it, which is to say, this is the most unique and profoundly important prophecy that is stated anywhere. And there is no other option as to who this is about. And so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So, and it is absolutely not messianic, as the Twistians would have you believe, or the Mother Goddess cult would believe. There is nothing remotely messianic about it. While the actual Messiah, who is Dowd, represents the tree of lives for opening the door to life on Passover. He is the Etz Kayam for having done that. This is the other tree. This is the tree is specified as the tree of knowledge. And so he is the other tree, and he is absolutely, unequivocally not the Messiah, but he knows him really well. And he is the tree that brings you back to the tree of lives. Without that knowledge that he is disseminating, there is no access to the tree of lives.
Yeah.
And that is the story of the Choder. So I look forward to sharing it with everybody when we have the opportunity. Anyway, thank you, Rich. You were fairly quiet. A couple of outbursts there for the man and the circle, but you could always blame that on the host, who is fairly verbose. That is correct. I represent that statement.
That's okay.
Thank you to Kevin. We'll be with you later today. Good day.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.